Do you want fast abyss runs and easy ISK? Then this setup is the right for you. With the electrical pulse and beam retribution plus Deacon, you mostly do not care much about newts and you clear the site in around 8 to 10 minutes, mostly depending on the spawns you get. Let's look at the fittings. We are starting with the Pulse Retribution, which is also your main tank ship and the main command ship around which all the other ships anchor. High slots are small focused pulse laser and a remote repair. In the mids we have an AB, a battery, and in the lows we have a multi-spectrum coating, 2 heatsinks and a Centus X-type thermal and EM hardener. In the rigs we have a thermal armor reinforced to get more tank against tricks and marshal, and the energy burst aerator for more DPS. We use mostly Scorch and Conflag, in some cases even radio, and those are the implants, but you want to add to them the mid-grade amulets without Omega, so that you are able to survive wrecking shots from Karen and Overmind. So also add the mid-grade amulets 1 to 5 but without Omega, because in slot 6 we have the small energy turret implant for more DPS. So this is the Pulse Retribution. Let's look at the Beam Retribution as well. And the fit is about the same as the Pulse one, only difference is that we have beam lasers in the high slots, and in the low slots we have to swap one of the X types for an A type because of CPU limitation. And we use a Trimark armor pump in the rig slots. The rest is about the same. Implants are also the same, but you have to use Genolution 1 and 2 implants to make this fit, otherwise it runs out of CPU. If you do not want to use the Genolution, you can also further downgrade this armor hardener. You can, for example, fit a faction one and then it should be fine on CPU, but you lose some tank against rigs. But this isn't your main tank ships, this is the secondary ship that maybe gets shot the one or other time. But you can swap the thermal hardener for a faction one. But I would keep the EM hardener, because in electricals you get a penalty to EM resistance, and therefore rats that do EM, especially Angel and Sancha, will do a lot of damage if you have low EM resistance. So downgrade the thermal hardener but not the EM one. And then last but not least, let's also look at the Deacon. High slots are 2 Sentry A-type and 1 Corelli A-type remote armor repair. Mids is AB and battery. For lows you have a multi-spectrum coating, an X-type thermal and EM hardener, and a 400mm plate plus a reactive armor hardener to get as much tank as possible on the Deacon. Rigs we use 1 Trimark armor pump for more buffer and a semiconductor memory cell for more cap buffer. And boosters are important that use an improved mine float and an overclocker for more speed. Yeah, you maybe wonder why those ships are not cap stable. They are not cap stable outside of the Abyss, but electricals give a bonus to cap recharge rate, so inside the Abyss those ships would be perfectly fine on cap. And for the implants on the Deacon, they are not shown here. I would also recommend use like cap management and capacitor system operation, and maybe the mid-grade amulets 1 to 5 to get some more armor buffer as well, so that it can survive longer if, for example, the Vedmax focus it and so on. But with the reactive armor hardener and the active, it actually gets crazy resistance against trick rooms, and also even in like in the Abyss with a lot of EM damage, you actually should still get decent EM resist because base resistance of this fit is so high. So, and these were the fit. Now let's look at each individual room. For the Kikimora room, we use the fact that they do not switch aggro. So draw aggro on the Pulse Retribution and then kill any starving Demavics that are in this room, and after that go for the Kikis. If they are Rodivas or Drakavax, still kill the Kikimoras first because they are more dangerous than the Drakavax or Rodivas. And once the Kikimoras are gone, focus the rest in this room. For the Ephialtes, hit approach on the cache and then you kill anything that newts first, which are the null charge cruisers and the Ephialtes dissipators. Once they are gone, then focus the confusers, and once the confusers are gone, let the Pulse Retribution shoot the drifter cruisers and the spearfishers because they orbit closer and you should be able to use conflagration on them, while the Beam Retribution shoots any other cruisers with multi-frequency that orbit a bit further away. These are the Deep Watchers. There shouldn't be much that can go wrong. Just loot the cache, then orbit the battleships at around 5 kilometers and shoot them down one after the other. They shouldn't ever be able to hit you at all unless you stand completely still. For the drone frigates, also again hit approach on the cache with the tank ship and then kill all the drones. Usually I kill the DPS drones with the Beam Retribution, and the Pulse Retribution kills the EVA drones, as the Pulse lasers have better tracking and so it hits those EVA drones much easier than the Beam one. And for the Vetmec room, you want to kill any starving Demavics first. Once the starving Demavics are gone, kill ghosting Demavics. And once they are gone, kill the Vetmecs. The starving Demavics are a bit more dangerous in Electricals because their newts cycle much faster and are able to keep your cap out once your cap reaches 0. But the starving Vetmecs has a very long cycle time and so it shouldn't be able to keep you permanently capped out, because until the newt cycles again your cap should be almost full again in Electricals. So it is actually more important to kill the starving Demavics first before going for the starving Vetmecs. In the Angel room, draw aggro on the tank Retribution and then kill the non-elite Cinnaballs, then the elite Cinnaballs, and then after that the rest. I usually shoot the Ixians and the Swordspine with the Beam Retribution, but the Pulse Retribution shoots Echoes and Tramiels because they orbit in a range where you can use Conflag on them. In the Overmind room, you want to kill any webbing and target painting frigates as fast as possible to to lower the chance of a wrecking shot from the battleship. And once those frigates are gone, try to push the Overmind into the edge of the room. You cannot really get on stable orbit around it because he will web you if you get closer than 15 kilometers. So the best strategy is to try to push it into the edge of the room, and once he is in the edge of the room, he gets stuck there, and then you should be able to get in a range where you can use conflag on the Pulse Retribution. Keep transversal up as high as possible on the battleship, because otherwise it will do a lot of damage. In the Sentry room, try to spiral into the knights while shooting any frigates that come close. You want to focus the smiths because they nude, and then the fishers because they web. The knights don't have good tracking, so it is important to keep transversal up towards those cruisers as high as possible. Once you get in range of them, start shooting the knights with everything, and if you get closer than 6 kilometers on the knights, then you can switch to conflag, and then those knights go down very quickly. In the drone battlecruiser room, kill any snare casters first, and then you want to make sure that you draw aggro on the Pulse Retribution. Then you send in the Beam Retribution close towards them, because the drone battlecruisers do not switch aggro except one of them, and it shouldn't have an issue tanking one of those battlecruisers. You want to primarily the Spark and Strike Grip Tesserers, because those are the ones where the Retribution is weakest in terms of resistance in electricals, and then last go for Ember and Blast, and the Retribution has very high resistance towards those damage types of them. So you might should be even able to tank like 3 to 4 Blast or Ember grips with the Pulse Retribution, because your Pulse Retribution is like 87% thermal and explosive resistance. And this is the Marshal room. There you want to keep your velocity up as high as possible and avoid getting into a blue cloud or web at all cost, because then the Marshals will do a lot of damage. Kill any webbing and nuding frigates, and after that go for the target painting frigates. Once those frigates are gone, go for the Marshals. If you have issues tanking them, then you can try to pull range, because Marshals will stop doing damage if you're more than 70 kilometers away from them. In the Cavern room, try to spiral into Cavern, and on the way to her kill anything that webs, nudes and target paints. Webs have to go first because they will slow you down, making it easier for Cavern to hit. After the webs are gone, go for the nudes, and once they are gone, go for target painters. Sometimes those cruisers will fall back a lot in range, so you will then in most cases just have the Beam Retribution to kill those cruisers. But once you are on Karen, they will get back in range, and then you can always switch back to those remaining nude and target painting cruisers before you finish Karen. For the sleeper cruisers, similar to the Fialtes, hit approach and cache and kill newts first. If there are frigates, then you want to switch the beam and pulse retribution. Beam retribution shoots the pre-server frigates and all the cruisers, while the pulse retribution shoots the frigates. Because some of the frigates orbit in a range where you can use conflag, especially the fire watchers and sometimes the escorts and Aegis as well. In the Lasher crew, you want to kill tanglings that come close, and then the beam retribution is actually very useful. If Aurora gets like 47 kilometers range, and that retribution will shoot mainly the blinding and starving Lashers as they pull a lot of range. And with the pulse retribution you chase the renewing and striking Lashers, as well as the tangling Lashers that stay together, or the tangling Lashers coming close. Mostly this room only takes like 1 to 2 minutes, but if it's the first room and you spawn very far away from them, then it can actually eat up a lot of time. So, and this was the guide for the electrical frigates. I hope it was helpful. Thank you for watching, and I see you in the next video.